Approximately 2,500 years ago, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, "Let food be your medicine, and medicine be your food." Now, the vegetables and fruits we eat don't taste the same as they used to. We long for the flavors we ate in our childhood. We always have a doubt when buying fruits and vegetables from the market. But why? As humankind, we have been farming for approximately 10,000 years. The agricultural revolution, which began in Mesopotamia, including our country's geography, feeds the world's population, exceeding 8 billion today, thanks to advances in agriculture and chemistry. Is this development a great success, or is it leading us into an unknown impasse? I will try to explain this in this documentary. Undoubtedly, modern agriculture has achieved great success in feeding the ever-increasing world population. Modern agriculture rests on three pillars: the application of industrial and scientific farming methods in the fields, the transportation of the produced goods to supermarkets, which are the final distribution points, and the refrigerator in your home. Without these three main elements, we wouldn't be able to feed the world's population, the majority of whom live in cities. In modern countries, the proportion of the population living in cities has reached 95%. This means that every 5 people living in villages have to produce agricultural food for 95 more people besides themselves. This is an incredible ratio. Farmers are expected to be this productive. So how do farmers manage this? And more importantly, is this a sustainable or healthy process? The declining village population has been replaced by machines, large fields equipped with single type of crops, chemical fertilizers and pesticides, industrial harvesting techniques and habits. Let's briefly look at the industrial farming processes. Fields are plowed with large tractors before each planting. The soil is nourished with chemical fertilizers, planted with machines, periodically sprayed against diseases and pests, and finally harvested with machines or a large workforce. This process is repeated twice, sometimes 3 times a year, depending on the crop variety. The result is a large quantity of a single type of product, which is then distributed to distribution points. Farmers are expected to produce more each year, use more machinery, and employ more chemicals. While this production process is sufficient to feed large populations, it has been constantly criticized, especially since the 1980s. One of the main criticisms concerns the quality of the vegetables produced, specifically their nutritional value. Current research shows that the plants we cultivate have lost an average of 40% of their nutritional value compared to the 1960s. The product that has lost the most nutritional value is the tomato. Tomatoes have lost 60% of their nutritional value in the last 50 years. I won't even mention their taste. Most of the products we consume are produced not for their taste and nutritional value, but with the goal of preventing spoilage during transport and while on shelves. Of course, another important factor is production in abundance. In other words, quantity is more important than quality. The main goal of industrial agriculture is productivity. The primary objective is to grow the maximum amount of product per unit of land and deliver it to the consumer with minimal loss. The production philosophy focuses on this, and farmers are conditioned accordingly. It's not the taste or healthiness of tomatoes that matters, but how many kilos are harvested per acre and how much is lost during transport. That's why we consume thick-skinned, tasteless tomatoes that last at least 3 weeks in the refrigerator. We've forgotten the taste of real tomatoes. The situation isn't much different with other agricultural products. Another criticism concerns the effects of pesticides used in industrial agriculture on human health. Uncontrolled and unregulated use of chemical pesticides threatens the health of all of us, especially children and the elderly. At this point, we can grow enough fruits and vegetables to feed the world's population, but the fruits and vegetables we eat don't taste the same as they used to, nor do they have the same nutritional value. We are worried that the products we expect to heal us might actually make us sick. We see a constant increase in cancer and allergy cases around us. To escape this dilemma, some alternative farming methods have been researched and implemented in recent years. I'd like to briefly mention some of them. The first is good agricultural practices. Don't ask yourself, can there be such a thing as good agriculture? In supermarkets, you may notice that products produced with this label are sold at higher prices than conventional products. So what is a good agricultural practice? GAP products are those documented as having been used within permitted limits for chemical pesticides used to treat plant diseases. Now you might ask yourself, shouldn't the chemicals used in agriculture already be regulated? So if GAP is the norm, what are the agricultural products we consume every day? They are products of unregulated farming. That is, they reach us without any control or regulation. Another alternative is organic products. In organic farming, chemical pesticides used in conventional farming are absolutely not used. However, some chemicals are permitted. The most prominent of these are Bordeaux mixture, copper sulfate, sulfur, wood ash, and compounds created by soaking plants in water and then diluting them before use as fertilizers or pesticides. The first two contain large amounts of copper sulfate and lime, while sulfur, when used excessively, is harmful to human health. These chemicals accumulate in the soil as they are discarded, and the future impact of this accumulation on our soils remains a mystery. Another problem in organic farming is certification. Farmers producing organically must first be certified by an international certification body, and their products must be inspected and chemically analyzed each production season before being offered for sale. The infrastructure for organic farming is still developing globally and has not yet reached a sufficient level. The most important reasons for this are the production cost and the lack of suitable land for organic farming in our country. Even if you don't use them, you need to ensure that the chemicals used by farmers around you don't contaminate your products. In other words, it's almost impossible for small farmers to practice organic farming. Another problem in organic farming is distribution and pricing. While it's possible to find organic farming markets in large cities, it's almost impossible to find them in provinces with medium and small populations. Organic product prices are almost 4 to 5 times higher than conventional products. Only a privileged population with high income levels can access organic products. You can see that the alternative farming methods I mentioned above are actually extensions of conventional farming, and they don't bring much innovation to the subject in terms of essence and philosophy, and their results only serve a limited percentage of the population. In both good agricultural practices and organic farming, the soil is still plowed, a single type of crop is planted, and permitted chemicals are used. So do we really have no other alternatives? As a member of a family that has been farming for 4 generations, I have also researched this topic extensively. While searching for methods other than the industrial farming methods I grew up with, I came across soilless farming, permaculture practices, compost farming, no-till farming, hugelkultur, etc. After examining all methods, I came across a method and philosophy called natural farming or do-nothing farming. For the past 4 years, I have been growing produce using this philosophy and method. Before talking about natural farming, I want to emphasize that any farming method that protects and improves the soil, prioritizes human health, and avoids the use of chemical poisons is a guiding light that will save us from the predicament we find ourselves in. The natural farming method and philosophy was developed and taught by the Japanese plant disease expert Masanobu Fukuoka. He also has 2 important books, The One Straw Revolution and the way and practice of natural farming. Natural farming is a way of farming that differs from other alternative farming methods, not only in its method, but also in its philosophy. Natural farming is a type of farming that minimizes human intervention, protects the soil, and takes advantage of the symbiotic relationship between plants and microorganisms in the soil. The aim of natural farming is to remove humans from the role of active agents interfering with the soil and plants, making them passive participants who only observe and protect natural processes, planting and harvesting without doing anything else. The four basic principles of natural farming are: 1. Do not plow the soil. 2. Do not use chemical fertilizers and compost. 3. Do not use herbicides to get rid of weeds. 4. Do not use insecticides and fungicides. Now, when you read these principles, you can see that they don't resemble industrial farming, organic farming, or any farming methods you've heard of before. I can even hear you thinking, is this even farming? You can't grow fruits and vegetables without plowing the soil, using fertilizers, or using chemicals. These and similar questions are ones I've encountered constantly for the past 4 years. I will try to briefly explain these principles and their reasons. We have been plowing the soil almost since we started farming. In fact, the plow was one of the first important agricultural tools we invented. We constantly plow the soil to break it up, remove weeds, and create farmland. Plowing is almost like a religion in industrial agriculture. You can't do without plowing. Even if you talk to organic farmers today, you'll see they can't give up plowing. But is plowing really necessary? Go to the forests around you. Is anyone plowing the forests? So how is it that forests are the areas with the greatest plant diversity? If the soil is compacted, it cannot absorb water and air. If it cannot absorb water and air, the life within it dies. The reason soil compaction occurs is the weight on it. So if you drive heavy machinery over it, especially during the spring and autumn months when the soil is wet, you compact the soil. Actually, the cause of soil compaction is human-induced. Soil compaction only occurs in areas where industrial agriculture is practiced. The organic matter within the soil makes it soft and allows it to absorb air and water. If you plow the soil, you both destroy this organic matter and compact the soil. In natural farming, heavy machinery is not used. The soil is not plowed. Both erosion and soil compaction are prevented. If you are starting natural farming for the first time and your soil is very hard, you can plow it once, but never again. In natural farming, chemical fertilizers and compost are not used. Any additive we add to the soil to support plant growth is essentially called fertilizer. Humans have been using fertilizers almost since domesticating animals. Animal manure, bone meal, and liquid fertilizers obtained by soaking plants in water have been a part of our lives since the beginning of history. We even have written documents indicating that the Romans used skeletons from mass graves in ancient battlefields, grinding them into powder and using them as fertilizer. Chemical fertilizers, on the other hand, are a product of modern chemistry. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was concluded that the natural fertilizers used until then were insufficient, and after long efforts, chemical fertilizers were produced. Chemical fertilizers are obtained by processing natural gas under high temperature and pressure and have been used extensively since the 1920s. Natural fertilizer, however, is humus. This is formed when organic matter accumulated on the soil is decomposed by bacteria and fungi, transforming it into forms that other living things can consume. Because the use of chemical fertilizers makes the soil acidic, It drives away bacteria from the soil and ends the natural formation of humus. Furthermore, excessive use of chemical fertilizers mixes with rainwater, first into streams and then into the seas, causing environmental pollution. The green algae you see on the surface of water near agricultural areas are caused by excessive use of chemical fertilizers. These fertilizers both pollute the environment and negatively affect marine life. In natural farming, compost is not used. Compost consists of decomposing organic matter accumulated by humans in a specific area and then spreading it back into the soil by humans. In natural farming, the in situ composting method is adopted. That is, the organic matter grown on the entire land where production takes place is left to decompose naturally, aiming for humus formation. This is another reason why the soil is not tilled in natural farming. If the soil is tilled, the accumulated organic matter will be dispersed, thus ending the natural humus formation. Another important consequence of chemical fertilizer use is that it causes plants to mature quickly and aggressively. Plants grown with chemical fertilizers grow faster and produce more fruit. But because more product is obtained per unit area, the taste and quality of the products suffer. You can't get the same taste from indeterminate wine tomatoes grown with natural fertilizer and from heirloom seeds in any other way. Are weeds really wild? Is there such a thing as wild weeds? Does the soil distinguish between plants that grow on it and those that aren't? We are the ones who make that distinction. For nature, all plants are equal. Moreover, it is the plants that grow on the soil that improve it. Plants share some of the sugar they obtain through photosynthesis with bacteria and fungi in the soil via their roots. Bacteria and fungi nourish the soil and other organisms within it. These organisms convert inorganic substances in the soil into organic substances that plants can use. In other words, they fertilize the soil and create humus from their excrements. Soil that doesn't have growing plant roots inside eventually dies or becomes dirt unsuitable for farming. This is why farmers have to plow and fertilize their land before each farming season. Don't mow weeds if you're not going to plant anything in its place. In industrial agriculture, no other plant rather than the crop to be grown in the field is allowed to survive. All other plants are destroyed by plowing the field or using chemical herbicides. Some of the herbicides used found carcinogenic and have been banned recently, but some farmers still use them. In natural farming, weed management is done through mulching. That is, the soil is covered with organic materials. Straw, tree leaves, and wood bark are natural mulches. Any organic material that covers the soil is mulch. By covering the soil, it prevents erosion, reduces water evaporation, and inhibits the growth of other weeds by cutting off their contact with the sun. It also contributes to humus formation through decomposition. Are all insects harmful? Recently, one of the most debated topics in the world is pesticides. Plants utilize insects for reproduction. The importance of bees and other insects in pollination is undeniable. However, farmers don't want any insects in their fields. They regularly use pesticides to kill all insects, whether beneficial or harmful. The reason for a high population of a particular type of insect in an area is the abundant cultivation of the plant product that this insect species consumes. How logical is it to plant only one type of plant in an entire area and then ask why it has so many pests? Another reason for a high population of harmful insects is the health of the plants. If a plant is not healthy, it cannot protect itself against harmful insects. If the soil is not healthy, the plant will not be healthy and cannot defend itself against diseases. We are all exposed to viruses and bacteria that cause colds in winter, but not everyone gets sick. However, if we enter crowded indoor spaces, we are bound to catch an illness. Monoculture, or growing only one type of plant, is the biggest cause of plant diseases and pesticide use. Try to grow 7 to 8 different types of plants, and every year you will see that the pest population is decreasing. As we said, not all insects are harmful. Some are beneficial. In other words, they are our friends. However, pesticide use drives all our friends away from the field. The pesticides used in agriculture first poison the farmers who use them, and then us. A better solution is always possible. Consuming healthy and nutritious food is a natural right. This requires some effort, some patience, and a different way of thinking than the solutions offered by industrial agriculture. With natural farming, you can grow all the vegetables that will feed you year-round without using any chemical fertilizers or pesticides on a 100 square meter plot of land. Natural farming is a regenerative agriculture method that benefits both the soil and the people consuming the products grown with these practices. Remember, every revolution starts with an individual.